सो नंबर्स या तो जैसे मैंने बोला कोई प्रोजेक्ट्स है उसमें आपने प्रोजेक्ट्स में कितने से लैक्स का या क्रोर्स का कॉस्ट सेविंग विच यू हेल्प इनडायरेक्टली और डायरेक्टली. So if you mention those things specifically, always helps. Always keep your CV, as I told, crisp and keep it at bullet points. Yes, so there are a couple of things that I personally, as an HR professional, would look into. For me, something that is important would be the stability factor.
Shreyas, next question. Whenever you get a candidate, right, how you decide the salary part? Okay, हम लोग इसको इतना सैलरी ऑफर करेंगे. हेलो दोस्तों, मेरे यूट्यूब चैनल में आपका स्वागत है. तो आज सबसे पहले हम लोग स्टार्ट करेंगे श्रेयस के इंट्रोडक्शन से. तो ओवर टू यू श्रेयस.
Hi Siddharth, thanks for inviting me for this. So to start with, my name is Shreyas Shetty. So I'm an HR professional for the last around 8.5 9 years now. So I passed out in 2014, and after a period of 6 months post my passing, I joined Godrej Appliances, which is a part of Godrej and Boys Group. I joined as an HR trainee there in the year 2015, March 2015, and for the initial 1 year I was an HR trainee there, and post that I got absorbed in the system as an assistant manager human resources, and I spent around 6.5 years at Godrej Appliances, handling various roles primarily into payroll management, HR business partner, recruitment, talent acquisition. And I left Godrej Appliances in 2022, 2 years back, and I joined Rich Products and Solutions Private Limited. It's a US based organization which specializes in manufacturing. So, yeah, that has been my professional journey so far.
या दैट वाज रियली नाइस द एंटायर जर्नी. तो और नॉर्मली कैसे होता है व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट द टैलेंट एक्विजिशन, राइट? सो एवरीवन
Right.
कम्स अप विद द क्वेश्चन. So the like first question is like, suppose you get a requirement, right, in your company. So
Right.
what is the process for that, like, and who knows the requirement first for that?
So, in terms of getting a new requirement, so I would say there are two types of basically requirements that come up in most of the organization. I would say one is would be a replacement positions. For example, if Shreyas is working, I resign, somebody has to take over my role. So that is what we call the replacement position. The other is what we in our current organization what we call the AOP, annual operationalized plan. Basically, every organization will have a annual planning कि ये न्यू पोजीशंस हम लोग को ऐड करने हैं इस साल में, विच वाज नॉट एग्जिस्टेंट फॉर द लास्ट ईयर. So this is basically as per the business requirement. Organizations will add new positions in the system, basically in the manpower planning. So in both the cases, if it's a replacement position, it's very obvious कि if I am leaving or Siddharth is leaving, there has to be somebody who will join in his place. So as an HR professional, I will be the first person because resignations will come to me from the associates or from the reporting manager. So I will know कि Shreyas is leaving, so I have to by default start search for his replacement positions basically. In case of the other scenario wherein you have a requirement from the business, it will come from the senior management. The senior management will approve the manpower plan as per the financial year या calendar year जैसा भी है. एक बार वो requirements हो गए, it gets approved by the senior management. It will come to then HR कि these are the 15 new positions we are planning to add in this year. They will probably give a timeline कि we need these guys by say month of March or by month of April, जैसे business planning है. Basis that the requirement will again come to me as an HR key, so that I can plan out my recruitment process about how I'm planning to onboard these guys. So the requirement will, as I told you, two types of replacement and business requirement position, but both will come to me directly as an HR professional.
Okay. So once you get the requirement, right, like, okay, we need so many candidates. So how do you start finding candidates? Like, do you use any specific portals for that?
Yeah, so again, for if I have to start a sourcing, basically the first part of any requirement that we get is the sourcing, then proceeds the interview and everything that proceeds. So again, for sourcing I have two methods. One is the internal method, the other is an external method. When I say internal, so basically I'll float out the requirement within the organization. I'll have a most likely most of the organizations will have a common ID wherein a single mail will shoot out to all the 500,000, 10,000 guys who are there in the organization. So मैं basically उनको बताऊंगा कि see guys, within the organization we have these requirements. If you have your friends, if you have your colleagues who are looking out for change, who would be interested in joining our organization, so you can refer their profiles. majority of the organization will have an employee referral scheme. So in case Siddharth refers me, Shreyas, I think you can fit into this role in our organization. There will also be a referral payout that will go to you, a certain amount of money that gets credited if the guy is successfully onboarded in the organization. So this is an internal process of getting somebody on board. The external process obviously are through various portals. For example, the very obvious, the first thing that comes to mind is the Naukri portal, the Monster Job, the Shine.com, imjobs.com, LinkedIn. So these are the external things. Apart from this, for example, as an HR professional, I can go to these profiles through these portals and download profiles basis my requirement, or I can give it to the consultants. So, for example, a lot of the organization, for example, me as an HR professional, I have a lot of other things to do apart from doing talent acquisition. That is a very important part of my portfolio. But I don't want to spend my time sourcing profiles. उसके बाद का जो process है उसमें मैं completely involved होना चाहता हूँ. So what I'll do is I'll give the requirement to a consultant. That's when the consultant come in. We have empaneled consultants होते हैं, 5 हो सकते हैं, 10 हो सकते हैं. में जो जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन है, सैलरी रेंज है, बेसिक रिक्वायरमेंट्स, एजुकेशनल क्वालिफिकेशन, वर्क एक्सपीरियंस, ऐसे सारे जो बुलेट पॉइंट्स है, आई गिव इट टू द कंसल्टेंट्स. The consultants will do the initial sourcing for me. So for example, I'll require say a sales guy for a FMCG profile. So मैं requirements दे दूंगा. The consultant will probably give me a download of say 5 CV, 6 CV, 10 CVs. Basis that I'll do the initial screening, and then I'll start the process of say getting in touch with the reporting manager. उनके interviews, initial round of interview will be done by me. If I find कि वो 6 CVs में से 3 ठीक है, which I find good enough, so वो 3 को I'll move to the next round basically with the reporting manager. And then as per the hierarchy, if it requires one interview, two interview, that is how the process flows basically.
Okay. So you mentioned like normally you see the resume first, right? Like out of 6, you will see whether they are proper or not. So any
Right.
specific things you start look into the resume, say okay, अगर ये बराबर है तो I'll shortlist the candidate, otherwise I'll reject the candidate.
Yes, so there are a couple of things that I personally, as an HR professional, would look into. For me, something that is important would be the stability factor. So, for example, a guy who has say 5 years of experience but is now right now in his sixth job or his seventh job, so that is a red flag for me. This guy has spent less than 1 year in every organization. So for me to be convinced to take him on board, I'll always have that back of the mind. What if he leaves in the next 6 months? I provide him the training. I spend the organizational resources, and 6 months down the line, when he's actually understanding कि उसका role क्या है, he will start looking out for another job. So stability is something that is important. Doesn't matter if it is a leadership role or entry level role. I'm not saying ki you have to spend like 5 years in an organization. People jump. That is very obvious. That is a part of your career choice. That's not an issue. But it should not be like you have spent less than say 8 months, 9 months, 10 months in an organization. Because by the time you are starting to learn something, you are switching. So that is something that is important. The other is I always prefer if the profile or the CV is in terms of it the crisp and short, if possible at most 1 page. उससे भी ज़्यादा हुआ तो maximum 1.5 2 page. It should not be a 5 pager, 6 pager wherein you just keep on writing about each and every detail about what you do day in day out. as a as a as a recruiter or as a talent acquisition guy, I'm not interested to learn ki what you do every day, every minute of your profile. मुझे bullet points चाहिए. I am interested to learn ki what you have done that has kind of contributed to the organization. So for example, if somebody has done really good in terms of say cost saving projects किए हुए उन्होंने, या तो कोई नया असाइनमेंट लिया है उन्होंने, कोई असाइनमेंट सक्सेसफुली इम्प्लीमेंट किया है जिसके वजह से एसओपी स्ट्रीमलाइन हुए हैं, टाइम सेविंग्स हुआ है, कॉस्ट सेविंग्स हुआ है, वैसे अगर प्रोजेक्ट्स कहीं पे मेंशन्ड है उस प्रोफाइल में, उस सीवी में, आई विल ऑलवेज बी द वन टू शॉर्टलिस्ट दैट प्रोफाइल, because the guy has actually mentioned ki what he has done, input क्या है उनका apart from the day to day working that we all do. जो ऑपरेशनल चीजें हैं वी ऑल डू, दैट इज द बेसिक रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ द रोल दैट वी हैव. But if he has done something that has given an actual value addition to the organization, that will always help. And the other
Hmm.
thing is always keep your CV, as I told, crisp, and keep it at bullet points. For example, you have to mention talent acquisition. If I have to prepare my CV, I'll mention talent acquisition and probably put a one liner key: I handle talent acquisition for west and south zone. This is the yearly requirements that I generally handle. These are the yearly salary ranges that I handle up to, for example 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs, 70 lakhs. आई डोंट हैव टू मेंशन कि मैं क्वार्टर 1 में कितना करता हूँ, क्वार्टर 2 पे कितना करता हूँ, 3 में कितना करता हूँ. वो जब मैं इंटरव्यू दे रहा हूँ, when I'm actually sitting for the interview with the organization, that time I can tell him in detail ki what I do, what are the roles that I handle. So that is something. And very very important, avoid grammatical mistakes. Looks very bad in your CV. Keep a common format. ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए कि the heading is Arial font में है, the content is in some other font, the signature in some other font. Always before uploading your CV एक basic word में grammar check, review check जो होता है, always run that.
Hmm.
Spelling mistakes, grammatical mistakes looks very bad on your CV. Doesn't matter if it's at a entry level, leadership level पे तो और भी खराब दिखेगा when you do that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I always run a grammar check. If possible, add a professional photo. It's more of a recent phenomena. Earlier it was not there. Now people add, because it kind of helps you to identify with the person. When I'm looking at the CV of Siddharth, which is a plain CV, I don't know Siddharth कौन है, मुझे सिर्फ उसके credentials पता है. But if you put a photo, okay, I can identify कि okay, this is Siddharth, so it stays at the back of my mind. So if possible, add a professional photo, but it's not like a compulsion. If possible you can add, it's good. If you don't add, still fine. If the profile is good, अगर आपका profile strong है तो without photo भी आपका shortlisting तो हो ही सकता है.
ओके. हाँ, एक पॉइंट आपने बहुत अच्छा मेंशन किया कि हम लोग कंपनी को कैसे हेल्प कर रहे हैं, बेसिकली द इम्पैक्ट. लाइक
Right. Right.
करेक्ट मी इफ आई एम रॉन्ग, लाइक इफ वी पुट नंबर्स लाइक ओके आई हेल्प कंपनी टू सेव $1 million, तो वो ज्यादा
Absolutely.
इंप्रेशन क्रिएट करेगा रेदर देन ओके मैंने ये ऑटोमेट किया या टेस्टिंग किया.
एब्सोल्युटली एब्सोल्युटली. सो नंबर्स, या तो जैसे मैंने बोला कोई प्रोजेक्ट्स है, उसमें आपने प्रोजेक्ट्स में कितने से लैक्स का या क्रोर्स का कॉस्ट सेविंग विच यू हेल्प इनडायरेक्टली और डायरेक्टली. So if you mention those things specifically, always helps. It is another thing that you, when you, for example, you get shortlisted and sit for the interview, you should be able to justify those numbers. So you should have that. ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ लिखने के लिए लिख दिया, and when the person is asking you don't know how to justify those numbers. So it's always good to have that with you. So for example, I'll always tell people कि जब आप इंटरव्यू के लिए जाते हो, post the shortlist, if possible always do kind of a writing कर लेना, jot down कर लेना points कि what could be the questions that the person might ask me. Because when I am preparing my CV, I kind of back of my mind, मुझे पता है कि कौन से पॉइंट्स पे मुझे क्वेश्चंस आ सकते हैं जो मैंने लिखे, जहाँ पे इंटरव्यूअर मुझे पूछ सकता है कि ये थोड़ा एक्सप्लेन कीजिए, ये नंबर्स कैसे, हाउ डिड यू अराइव एट दिस नंबर, व्हाट वाज द प्रोजेक्ट टाइमलाइन, who was leading the project, were you part of a team of 20 guys, or you were the one who was leading the team, basically. So that always helps to have that information ready with you.
दैट्स ट्रू. सिर्फ मेंशन करने से नहीं होगा, हमको आना भी चाहिए
Right.
कि
जस्टिफाई करने होना चाहिए कि वो क्यों लिखा गया है वहां पे करके.
नहीं तो हम लोग कुछ भी नंबर डाल देंगे, हम लोग ने इतना
It's
सेव किया
yeah,
लेकिन कैसे.
people write things in the CV. It's okay. मतलब you cannot be like on point 100%. थोड़ा बहुत 19-20 चलता है, but it should not be like you have no idea कि उसमें क्या हुआ है and you have just written in the profile. It's वो उस पे अगर questioning आ गया and you are not able to justify, then it's gone. There's no use
करेक्ट.
of putting it in the profile then.
करेक्ट, शॉर्टलिस्ट होके भी कोई फायदा नहीं हुआ हमारा
फायदा नहीं
रेज्यूमे.
होगा, फायदा नहीं होगा कुछ, राइट.
तो श्रेयस, normally when you get an opening, right? So just curious to know how many resumes you get for a single opening.
So it depends यार, मतलब for example, if I have to design entry level role, so that is something I might get say 15 profiles for that role from the consultant, or just from the referrals. Then I have to do the initial shortlisting and take it ahead. There is another likelihood कि जो 15 profiles मुझे एग्जीक्यूटिव के लिए मिले थे, उसमें से मुझे शायद 13 पसंद नहीं आएंगे. So the volumes might be big at the entry level role, but the possibility of all the profiles meeting the criteria is very less. For a higher level, for a senior management, the profiles pool might be less, but there is a higher possibility that most of them will meet the criteria that we are looking for.
Okay. And how much time normally do you give for a resume? Like, okay, मैं इतना टाइम दूंगा और डिसाइड कर लूंगा कि yes, I need to shortlist the resume या फिर मैं इसको रिजेक्ट कर दूंगा.
Uh, so you can so just initial going through the profile, just reading the profile start to end, you will get a fair idea. That is, a HR guy will get a fair idea if I have to take this resume ahead or not. So some of the times we just get like people will write in their job experiences, like for example Godrej Appliances March 2015 to March 22. They won't write anything below that. उन लोगों ने सिर्फ उतना लिख दिया, छोड़ दिया. So that kind of profiles kind of puts you off. So just reading through the profile you will have a fair idea. Then obviously it depends if I have to do the calling myself also. So at the very initial stages of the career, a lot of the people try to talk to the people to get an understanding key, because apart from the resume it is always important to understand कि how does the guy sound in terms of talking. Confident है, अगर मुझे ऐसा रोल है जहाँ पे उसका एक सर्टन लैंग्वेज का प्रोफिशिएंसी चाहिए मुझे, वो उसका है या नहीं, कॉन्फिडेंट है, इजी एबल टू जस्टिफाई व्हाट ही इज पुट इन द रेज्यूमे. So that depends, but initial basic scan through the resume will give me a fair idea ki if I have to take this guy ahead or not.
Okay. And once you select the resume, do you forward the resume to the team or you only decide, okay, we'll go ahead with the interview process?
So I'll decide. So it depends again, because this is it depends considering the position that we are looking at. So for example, again at an entry level I'll shortlist the resume and I'll send it to the uh, reporting manager, the guy who is taking the interview, or the guy जिसको ये role report करेगा कि sir this is the resumes, 4 resumes I've shortlisted, I'm fairly confident that we will have a one shortlist out of these 4 guys. So I'll send it to the guy. For again, for the senior management role, for example a sales manager role or a regional sales manager role, I always prefer to speak to that guy at least virtually, if not on telephonic I don't prefer at senior level. Personally I'll always prefer a virtual interaction. So I'll meet that guy, I'll talk to him for around half an hour, 40 minutes to try understanding कि उनका business sense क्या है. So personally I don't feel कि as an HR I should only be restricted to कि HR के जो 2-3 क्वेश्चंस है कि आपका ये सैलरी रेंज क्या है, नोटिस पीरियड क्या है, वो बहुत बार नहीं मैटर करता है. फॉर मी इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट इफ ही हैज अ बिजनेस अंडरस्टैंडिंग, ही नोज अबाउट हिज टेरिटरी, अबाउट हिज रेवेन्यू, अबाउट द टीम हैंडलिंग रोल दैट ही इज डूइंग, उसका प्रोडक्ट पोर्टफोलियो क्या है, यू नो, हाई हाई सेलिंग एसकेयूज कौन से है, लो सेलिंग कैसे है, हाउ डज ही प्लान हिज डिमांड्स एंड एवरीथिंग. So I always prefer to have an interaction, a good 40 minutes, 1 hour interaction with the guy. If I am convinced then ki okay he's good enough to be taken ahead, because the person that I'll be sending the profile is also a pretty senior guy, a zonal head or a national sales head, so unka time be important hai. So I don't want ki I send something, send a candidate wherein they are not at all convinced ki yaar Shreyas kisko bhej diya hai karke. So I'll always do that. At an entry level, if I am kind of confident ki he will get through, then I'll directly send the profile to the reporting manager.
Okay. Yeah, because that makes sense. Initial recruiting, right? Because otherwise it will waste everyone's time, even the candidate and the senior person as well, who is
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
take the interview.
yeah. It doesn't make sense to actually just unko milana, and then it will be a 15 minute. Within the 10-15 minutes, you will have a fair idea ki if he's going through or not. So it's always better to have that initial screening. I think most of the HR guys will have that initial screenings.
Correct. Yeah. Even I observe that. Like, अभी हम लोग जब job apply करते हैं, mostly it's like the first the HR round. Like we'll have
Right,
a normal conversation for 30 minutes to 1 hour based on
right,
what we did and based on the
correct,
JD and everything.
correct, correct, correct.
Yeah. So we talked about resume. So Shreyas, when you get a requirement, so do you use LinkedIn as well? And how important, according to you, is LinkedIn for a job?
LinkedIn profile, I would say, is fairly relevant for middle level and senior level roles. Uh, at a very entry, for example, a fresher, for a fresher, I personally also will go into LinkedIn only if I have to go for a middle level or middle level or a senior level role. For an entry level role, I'll always rely more on Naukri or the portals or the CVs that I get from the consultant or for the referrals. But to have a decent LinkedIn profile, it's always important, especially in today's day and age. जहाँ पे a lot of the guys even have started putting their LinkedIn profile link in their is embedded in their profiles in their CVs basically, so that you can go check. So connections become important. How does your LinkedIn profile basic hygiene कैसा है उसका? How is it looking basically? That becomes important. So for a fresher, it might not be, again, for a guy who is doing सोशल मीडिया, जिसका सोशल मीडिया रोल है या तो एडवर्टाइजिंग रोल है, उनके लिए लिंक्डइन बिकम्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, क्योंकि उनका पोर्टफोलियो वहाँ पे होता है. और फॉर समबडी हु इज डूइंग डिजिटल, इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि उसका डिजिटल इंटरफेस कैसा दिख रहा हो. मैं अगर किसी डिजिटल बंदे को रिक्रूट कर रहा हूँ, तो आई विल ऑलवेज गो टू लिंक्डइन एंड चेक कि जो बंदा डिजिटल के लिए अप्लाई कर रहा है उसका खुद का डिजिटल पोर्टफोलियो कैसे दिख रहा है. बट फॉर अ सेल्स गाय हु इज गोइंग टू डू फील्ड वर्क 6 days a week, he might not know how to use LinkedIn at a very entry level, who is for example a basic graduate है. बट अगर कोई MBA पास आउट है, कोई BTech पास आउट है, IT इंजीनियर है, उसके लिए आई ऑलवेज एक्सपेक्ट कि उसका बेसिक जो लिंक्डइन प्रोफाइल है, इट शुड लुक डिसेंट. अगर बहुत हाई फाई नहीं है, इट हैज मोर देन 500,000 कनेक्शंस, दैट इज ओके. बट what he has entered in that should give me a basic idea कि okay, he has done his education यहाँ से, अभी तक का वर्क एक्सपीरियंस इतना है, फोटो इज डिसेंट, he has maintained the basic hygiene, so that is good enough for me. But for recruiting, purely recruiting perspective, say I'll go to LinkedIn only for say a slightly middle level and higher level profiles के लिए.
Okay. So, LinkedIn पे भी normally we can put, right, like open to work, I'm looking for a job. So does it help or it doesn't matter?
It kind of helps. If somebody is open to job, it will help because you have that visibility, basic visibility तो मिल जाता है सामने कि okay, he is looking out for a change, so I can approach him directly. Otherwise you will generally put in a message, and if he replies, then you'll get to know. If he's put open to work, it will definitely help. It is like kind of when people update their portfolio and they'll mention key serving notice period. सो सर्विंग नोटिस पीरियड अगर लिखते तो इट विल डेफिनेटली हेल्प, बिकॉज एनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, जब मैं किसी को हायर करने के लिए देख रहा हूँ, मैं सिद्धार्थ जा रहा है, सिद्धार्थ का रिप्लेसमेंट मुझे चाहिए, आई नो सिद्धार्थ विल बी देयर फॉर अ नोटिस पीरियड ऑफ 30 days और 60 days और 90 days एट मोस्ट केस. मुझे सिद्धार्थ के जाने से पहले अगर कोई उसका रिप्लेसमेंट मिल गया, वेल एंड गुड. So I'll always look for if somebody is serving a notice period. अगर कोई notice period serve कर रहा है, there is a possibility कि he will join within 15 days भी हो सकता है, 20 days हो सकता है. So that always helps. If somebody is serving notice period or if somebody has put key open to work here, so it will always help.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, like apart from the basic things which you mentioned, right? If we write articles, put posts on the LinkedIn, have more followers, that will make us more suitable, right? Like if अगर कोई HR आ रहा है तो देख रहा है कि हाँ, he is writing post, articles है, followers है, तो उसको चूज करने के चांसेस ज्यादा है कंपेयर टू अदर पर्सन हु इज जस्ट मेंटेनिंग अ प्रोफाइल ऑन लिंक्डइन.
या अगर आप काइंड ऑफ एप्पल टू एप्पल कंपैरिजन कर रहे हो कि एक बेसिक लिंक्डइन प्रोफाइल है, या तो अनदर प्रोफाइल वेर इन द गाय इज वेरी एक्टिव इन टर्म्स ऑफ व्हाट ही इज पोस्टिंग, वो अपने ओपिनियंस डाल रहा है, आर्टिकल शेयर कर रहा है, business related talks he's kind of very interested in, he's putting out his opinions. So definitely I'll, as a recruiter, I'll be more inclined to kind of shortlist that profile, or kind of think कि ठीक है, he's kind of something active है बंदा, कुछ कर रहा है वो, उसके करियर रिलेटेड ही इज डूइंग समथिंग. सो आई विल ऑलवेज प्रेफर द अदर गाय ओवर द फर्स्ट. It doesn't matter once you sit for the interview, it is a person who actually portrays जो उसने बताया है, जो लिखा है. But yeah, as a first impression, the other person will always look more appealing to me.
Correct. So it's better to maintain profile on both the job portals as well and
It
a
is
decent
always
profile on LinkedIn as well.
ऑलवेज बेटर इन, जैसे मैंने बोला कि आज के टाइम पे व्हेन पीपल एक्चुअली, अ लॉट ऑफ द रिक्रूटर्स इनफैक्ट at certain level, they'll always sometimes go to your social media just to check कि what are your opinions, आप क्या पोस्ट कर रहे हो, डज इट सूट विद द कंपनी कल्चर. कंपनी कल्चर होता है तो वो भी एक देखना पड़ता है कि कंपनी कल्चर में फिट बैठ रहा है या नहीं, जिसको हम लोग ले रहे हैं. सो दे विल चेक कि लिंक्डइन पे क्या है, व्हाट इज ही पोस्टिंग. So it is always better to have maintain that nice decent profiles on both offline or online platforms.
Yeah, correct. So, Shreyas, next question. Whenever you get a candidate, right, how you decide the salary part? Okay, हम लोग इसको इतना salary offer करेंगे.
Hmm. So Most, like not most, I would say every organization will have a dedicated budget to every portfolio, every role that we have. So for example, entry level sales guy will have a allocated budget of say 6 lakhs, 7 lakhs. I'm just giving a hypothetical example. A senior role will always have a dedicated budget of say between 25 lakh 30 lakhs. So ये budgeted करना पड़ता है क्योंकि you have to do the manpower requirement for the year. देयर इज अ प्रॉफिट एंड P&L स्टेटमेंट जो मेंटेन करना पड़ता है, मैन पावर बजटिंग करना पड़ता है. तो स्टार्ट ऑफ द ईयर एवरी रोल इन मोस्ट ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विल हैव अ अपर कैप कि श्रेयस आ रहा है एज एन HR गाय, उसका सैलरी से 10 lakhs का रेंज है हमारे पास, इतना हम लोग के पास कैपिंग है. दैट डजेंट मीन कि 10 लाख से ऊपर जा नहीं सकता. एवरी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विल हैव दैट लीवे की डिविएशन लेके हम लोग अप्रूवल लेके कर दे, बट एवरी रोल विल हैव अ डेडिकेटेड बजट. Now a lot of the organizations, so this is what I'm frankly क्या होता है मैं वो बता रहा हूँ. So a lot of the organizations क्या होता है, if there is a budget of say 10 lakh, I find a guy श्रेयस मुझे मिला है who is currently at say 4 lakhs, but the candidate is very good. A lot of the organizations क्या करेगा कि irrespective श्रेयस 4 पे है, 3 पे है, 5 पे है, they will give him an offer of say 9.5 lakh 10 lakh, क्योंकि वो उनके बैंड में by default an organization will require श्रेयस to come in at that salary. That is the kind of benchmarking that they follow. कि श्रेयस आ रहा है एट HR मैनेजर लेवल पे आ रहा है, he has to be at 10 lakh, he has to be at 9.5, he cannot be at 6, he cannot be at 7. That is the basic hygiene that organization maintain. Similarly, there will be organizations wherein they have a budget of 10 lakh, Shreyas is at 4 lakh, they Shreyas expect कर रहा है 30% 40% increase, they will take it up to 7 lakhs 8 lakhs, even though they know कि 10 तक जा सकते हैं. And I don't think there is anything wrong with that, because it is ultimately the business requirement that the organizations decide basically. An HR guy, me making an offer, I might want to give Siddharth a salary of 20 lakhs, but it doesn't depend on me, it depends on the range I have, the budget I have. So it depends both ways. अगर मैं सिद्धार्थ का एक्सपेक्टेशंस मीट कर रहा हूँ, सिद्धार्थ बोल रहा है मुझे 40%, मुझे 50% इंक्रीज चाहिए, मेरे बजट के अंदर बैठ रहा है, बट मेरा बजट ज़्यादा है, बट मैं सिद्धार्थ का एक्सपेक्टेशन मीट कर रहा हूँ, तो एज एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन आई डिसाइड कि ठीक है सिद्धार्थ इज एक्सपेक्टिंग 50, आई गिव हिम मे बी 52% इंक्रीज, but that is what I'll go for. So it depends organization to organization. A lot of the very, I would say blue chip organizations, out and out MNCs who have certain band wise criteria, they will give you a salary increase no matter कि आपका करंट सैलरी कितना है, क्योंकि उनका रिक्वायरमेंट है कि अगर कोई बंदा बैंड 2 बैंड 3 पे आ रहा है, he has to come in at that salary, so they will give you a 80% increase 90% increase. But again, a lot of the organization, in fact I would say majority of the organizations will decide कि आपका expectation कितना है, उसके basis पे I'll decide the salary and I'll give you the salary increases accordingly. वैसे
तो इन दिस केस लाइक अगर आपका बजट 10 है लेकिन इफ अ कैंडिडेट इज आस्किंग ओनली 7 LPA, सो दैट्स अ आई थिंक अ मिस्टेक फ्रॉम द कैंडिडेट साइड, राइट? ही शुड हैव आस्क्ड मोर, बिकॉज़ इफ ही इज आस्किंग 7 देन यू आर गोइंग टू ऑफर ओनली 7, राइट? नॉट गोइंग टू गो बियॉन्ड 7.
राइट. तो उसमें क्या होता है, लॉट ऑफ द टाइम अपने यहाँ पे देर इज अ काइंड ऑफ in terms of understanding ki market, what doesn't market offer. Now we don't have, I feel we don't have enough data available in the domain, freely available in the domain. There are data available with the organizations who do benchmarking studies across the industry. IT industry का एक benchmarking होगा, FMCG का होगा, pharma का होगा, wherein the organization will have data कि say कोडर, एक बेसिक जो कोडिंग करता है, उसका सैलरी मार्केट स्टैंडर्ड में कितना बैठ रहा है आज के तारीख में. सो द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विल हैव दैट डेटा, बट फ्रीली डेटा अवेलेबल नहीं है आपके और मेरे लिए, एम्प्लॉयज के लिए जो जॉब्स देख रहे हैं, वेर इन दे कैन बेंचमार्क कि मी एज अ कोडर, मेरा पोटेंशियल मार्केट में आज के टाइम पे मुझे 15 लाख मिल रहा है, तो मैं 15 लाख एक्सपेक्ट कर सकता हूँ. वो डेटा अवेलेबल नहीं है, तो वो एक काइंड ऑफ शॉर्टेज ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन भी है for the prospective candidates, wherein they can say understand कि ठीक है मेरा जो जॉब प्रोफाइल है उसमें एक्चुअली 12 lakhs तक के ऑफर मिल रहे हैं. तो वो एक इशू है, बट यू कैनॉट ब्लेम द गाय, बिकॉज जनरली अपने यहाँ पे एक बेसिक एक्सपेक्टेशन है कि यार 30% इंक्रीज ले लो, 35% इंक्रीज ले लो, बस हो गया, दैट इज मोर देन इनफ। 40 के ऊपर मिल गया तो बहुत ही अच्छा है, वैसा है। तो जरूरी नहीं है, कुछ रोल्स में शायद 30% इंक्रीज इज वेरी गुड, कुछ रोल्स में यू कैन गो अप टू से 50% इंक्रीज, बट पीपल जनरली स्टिल लिमिट themselves to 30-35. So I would say it is more related to not having enough information available in public domain freely to understand the salary ranges that we get.
Okay. So, like, suppose, do we have any range? Like, okay, I have 5 years of experience working in IT, और क्योंकि मेरा 5 साल का एक्सपीरियंस है और मुझे 15 लाख मिलना चाहिए, तो मल्टीपल हो गया 3, बेसिकली 5 into 3 is equal to 15. So, do we have any kind of a multiples which we should follow? Okay, if I have 10 years of experience, then multiple should be 4, और मेरे को 40 लाख मिलना ही चाहिए.
See, I'm not sure if there is any multiple. I have not come across any study or any benchmarking where it depends on the multiples of your work experience with related to your CTC. But again, as I told you, there is a market trend. There is generally a clear market trend. There are organizations that do these benchmarking studies, and it is available. The data is available, wherein they do it general. They'll do it for general market for a particular position across India. They'll do it इंडस्ट्री वाइज, जैसे मैंने बोला फार्मा वगैरह. सो वेर इन दे डिवाइड, दे काइंड ऑफ टेल यू कि दिस पोजिशन जनरली हैव दिस काइंड ऑफ अ रेंज. सो दे विल गिव यू से 25 परसेंटाइल कितना होता है, 50 परसेंटाइल जो मीडियन रेंज है वो कितना होता है, 70 परसेंटाइल कितना होता है, 70 परसेंटाइल इज ऑन दी हायर साइड. So that range is available, but see, I am not sorry, I am not come across any kind of a study or a report wherein they say कि it depends on the multiple of your experiences basically.
Okay. And because what we experience is, right, suppose there are two-person working in the same company, okay, and
Right.
both are at the same designation, having the same number of experience, but
Right.
one is at the higher pay and one is at the lesser pay. So
Correct. That
any
happens.
reason for that? Yeah.
That happens. So again, this will happen in the organization जहाँ पे irrespective of the band आप किसी को भी कौन से भी salary range पे ले रहे हो, which is always dangerous for the organization. Forget about the employee. When he comes to know, he will definitely feel bad, he'll start looking out for change, he'll talk about it, but it is dangerous for the organization. इसलिए a lot of the organization, जैसे मैंने बताया, irrespective कि आपका current salary क्या है, they'll take you up to a certain salary क्योंकि आप उस band में आ रहे हो in the organization. So that always helps. The other organizations, जैसे मैंने बोला, who will take you up to a certain salary आपके expectations के according. So this happens. So for example, Shreyas at 4, उसके पास बजट है 10 तक का, मैंने एक्सपेक्ट किया है कि मुझे 7 चाहिए, उसने मुझे 7 पे लाके रिक्रूट कर लिया. सिद्धार्थ कम्स एट द सेम रोल, सिद्धार्थ इज एट 6, बट सिद्धार्थ बोल रहा है कि मुझे 10 चाहिए और उसके पास 10 का बजट है. तो श्रेयस एंड सिद्धार्थ आर डूइंग द सेम वर्क इन द सेम रोल, सेम डेजिग्नेशन, बट आई एम अर्निंग 7 LPA and Siddharth is earning 10 LPA. So that will happen. That happens in a lot of the organizations, frankly. I won't say कि बहुत कम organizations, especially in our country, that happens in most of the organizations, because we don't follow that standardization of, say, designation wherein everybody will get this kind of similar. I can understand a 25k, 50k, 60k difference between CTC, but it cannot be a 4 lakh ka difference, 6 lakh ka difference between the CTC for the same role. But that happens, that happens primarily due to the reason that I said, explained before. उस वजह से होता है वो.
करेक्ट. तो मतलब इसका मतलब ये है कि हम लोग को ज्यादा मांगना चाहिए एचआर से जब हम लोग
मांग
जॉब
सकते,
के
सी
लिए जाए.
यू कैन ऑलवेज, यू कैन नॉट बी लाइक एब्सर्ड नहीं हो सकता. फॉर एग्जांपल आई एम एट, जैसे हम लोग सेम एग्जांपल लेते हैं, आई एम एट 5, मैं बोल रहा हूँ यार मुझे 16 चाहिए, वो एब्सर्ड हो गया. दैट डजंट लॉजिकली फिट इनटू द नेगोशिएशन और द एक्सप्लेनेशन. सो आई विल बी लाइक कि बंदा ठीक है, क्या मांग रहा है इसको पता है वैसे. सो वैसा नहीं हो सकता, बट आई कैन स्ट्रेच, आई इनिशियली स्ट्रेच करने में क्यों नहीं हो सकता. इफ यू आर कॉन्फिडेंट अबाउट योर कैंडिडेट, एज अ कैंडिडेट, आई मेरे को आइडिया आ जाता है कि इनको मैं पसंद आ गया हूँ, दे वांट मी टू जॉइन द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, so I can definitely stretch. There is no harm in doing the initial negotiation, and you can always have a good rapport with the guy who is the HR guy, the talent acquisition guy. You can have a good rapport with him. You can go up to, because initially तो आप उससे डिस्कस करोगे. ऐसा तो नहीं होगा कि आप 4 बंदे बैठ के आपका सैलरी नेगोशिएशंस हो रहा है. इट विल ऑलवेज बी अ 1-to-1 discussion with the HR guy. So you can have a nice rapport with him. You can kind of stretch it initially just to get an idea कि what does he say, उसका रिएक्शन क्या है, does he, is he surprised कि क्या मांग रहा है ये बंदा. अगर वैसा नहीं है, सो यू विल हैव अ फेयर आइडिया कि यू डोंट हैव टू रिस्ट्रिक्ट योर सेल्फ टू 20%, 25%, 30%। आप इनिशियली कर सकते हो, उसके बात करने के बेसिस पे यू विल हैव आइडिया कि इफ ही इज एबल टू स्ट्रेच, इफ इज नॉट एबल टू स्ट्रेच। इट्स नेगोशिएशन यार, वो भी अपने कंपनी का काइंड ऑफ बजट सेविंग करने को देख रहा है, यू एज अ कैंडिडेट आर ट्राइंग टू पुश इट। So I think there is no harm in doing that initial slightly higher key. इतना I would expect. You will have a fair idea कि how much he can stretch basically. But it cannot be absurd जैसे मैंने बोला. अब 5 का
हाँ
20 नहीं मांग सकते basically. वैसे
हाँ, ज्यादा मांगो लेकिन कुछ भी मत मांगो कि आपको आगे ही
राइट
जाने का चांस नहीं मिले।
राइट राइट, ऐसा ना हो कि वो बोले कि सॉरी सर ये तो नहीं होगा, आप थैंक यू करके नहीं होना चाहिए basically.
Hmm. So, suppose you mention, right, that you have a budget of 10 and you offer the candidate a salary package of 10 lakh.
Hmm,
Abhi, now he get another offer saying another company 12 lakh. Okay.
hmm,
So he comes to you, say, okay, I have an offer of 12 LPA. And since your
hmm,
budget was 10 LPA, right? So does negotiation help over that? Like, अगर अच्छा मेरे पास एक offer है तो will
hmm.
you consider the candidate कि okay हम लोग इसको ज्यादा दे सकते हैं?
Yeah, we मतलब as an HR guy or as an organization we will consider अगेन केस टू केस डिफर करता है। मैंने श्रेयस को शॉर्टलिस्ट किया है, श्रेयस बोल रहा है आके कि आई हैव ऑफर ऑफ से 12 lakhs, बट आई हैव सिद्धार्थ हुई एज अ बैकअप। मैंने 2 बंदे शॉर्टलिस्ट किए थे, सिद्धार्थ मेरे पास बैकअप है। तो मैं ट्राई करूंगा टू हैव अ वर्ड विद माय मैनेजर और विद द अप्रूविंग अथॉरिटी कि कैन वी गो अप टू 12 lakhs, डू आई गेट अ अप्रूवल, बिकॉज इट इज अल्टीमेटली इट इज नॉट इन माई हैंड। आई डोंट हैव द अथॉरिटी टू सडनली इंक्रीज द बजट फ्रॉम 2 lakhs एंड गिव इट टू श्रेयस कि ठीक है ये आप ले लो। सी इफ आई गेट द अप्रूवल, इफ आई एम कॉन्फिडेंट कि श्रेयस अच्छा कैंडिडेट है, उसके पास ऑफर है, ही हैज गिव, ऑब्वियसली देयर हैज टू बी अ टेंजिबल प्रूफ कि श्रेयस के पास 12 का ऑफर है। So if I'm kind of convinced he is a good candidate, if I get an approval that I can stretch up to 11.5 12, I will give you a revised offer. Ki, okay, Shreyas, take this offer. This is what maximum I can do. I've stretched it from 10 to 12. I've matched your current offer, the new offer that you have given. If I'm not able to do it, the organization, the management says ki we cannot exceed the 10 capping of 10 lakhs. I might go for Siddharth, who I have kept as a फर्स्ट शॉर्ट लिस्ट। इन केस श्रेयस डजंट गो थ्रू, आई हैव अ बैकअप इन सिद्धार्थ। जरूरी नहीं है कि हर रोल के लिए मेरे पास बैकअप हो, क्योंकि कभी कभी एक अच्छा बंदा मिलना भी बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है, तो मेरे पास शायद बैकअप नहीं होगा। बट अगर मेरे पास बैकअप है कि सिद्धार्थ है, सिद्धार्थ इज रेडी टू जॉइन एट 10 और 9.5, आई विल गो टू सिद्धार्थ। बट देर इज नो हार्म एंड देर इज नथिंग रॉन्ग इन टेकिंग अनदर ऑफर। इट्स अ फ्री मार्केट ना, अपने यहाँ पे फ्री मार्केट है, कोई बॉन्डेड लेबर नहीं है अपने यहाँ पे। सो इट्स देयर इज नथिंग रॉन्ग कि इट्स अ पर्सनल करियर, पर्सनल मोटिव। जो मैं ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अभी तक ज्वाइन किया भी नहीं है, मैं उसके बारे में ठीक है, आई विल थिंक अबाउट इट। देयर मतलब यू कैन नॉट बी वेरी वेरी काइंड ऑफ ये कि मेरे पास 4 ऑफर आ गए, आप बहुत ही मतलब नॉट इन प्रोफेशनल टर्म्स आप नेगोशिएट नहीं कर सकते। बट देर इज नथिंग रॉन्ग इन से गेट टेकिंग अनदर ऑफर एंड गोइंग टू द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, प्रीवियस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, एंड टेलिंग कि सी मेरे पास ये अच्छा ऑफर आया है विच इज गुड फॉर माई करियर, so would you be able to kind of match it, because I would be interested in joining you, organization wise I feel कि you have given me the first offer, I should be fair in that sense कि मेरे पास ये भी offer है, would you be able to consider this and kind of match the CTC or whatever remuneration I have received. There is nothing wrong with that, and the organization, if possible, they will definitely consider. They don't want to waste their 1.5 month of process कि मुझे ये लड़का मैंने फाइनली शॉर्टलिस्ट किया था, अब मैं इसको ऐसे ही जाने नहीं दे सकता। So they will always consider it if it is in their hand, if possible है approvals मिल रहे हैं, they'll give you a revised offer. That has happened, that happens all the time.
Yeah, because people thinks like, okay, if I go to the company, say I have another offer, so it will create a bad impression. And if I'm very much interested to go into that company, right? तो वहाँ पे
Right.
ऐसे आता है, will they revoke my offer? Offer रहेगा कि नहीं रहेगा? If I go to them and say I have another offer, so does that happen? Like, do you revoke
offer
it or do you?
revoke Offer revoke happens, but I won't say बहुत ज़्यादा. So I the scenario in the last couple of years ना have changed a lot. Post COVID बहुत कुछ change हो गया है. It's not the similar market that was there say 3 years back or 4 years, sorry 5 years back. अभी 2019 2020 को काफी टाइम हो गया. So organization, most of the say mature organization are ready. They kind of know कि when you place an offer, मैं जब सिद्धार्थ को ऑफर करता हूँ, सिद्धार्थ का 60 डेज का नोटिस है, आई एम ऑलवेज काइंड ऑफ बैक ऑफ द माइंड मेरे चल रहा होता है कि 60 दिन में, 60 डेज इज अ लॉन्ग टाइम, 60 डेज में बहुत कुछ हो सकता है. So Siddharth will get another offer. I will be in touch with Siddharth by some reason or the other. Hi Siddharth, कैसे हो? एक हफ्ते, 10 दिन बाद, 15 दिन बाद मैं बीच बीच में बात करता रहूंगा. All okay, all on track to join. Your resignation is accepted. ठीक कर रहे हो, वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह. So organizations kind of back of the mind उनके रहता है आजकल के सिनेरियो में कि people generally look for changes. Even you have a offer, you will हो सकता है आप ज्यादा aggressively आप दूसरे offers के लिए देख रहे रहोगे, especially in IT. Happens a lot with IT hirings. In fact, entry level sales guy won't do it. If I'm getting an entry level sales guy, say in tier 2 tier 3 cities, Karnool में, से हैदराबाद में, रूरल बैंगलोर में मैंने किसी को ऑफर किया है सेल्स के बंदे को, आई एम काइंड ऑफ एश्योर्ड कि वो ज्वाइन करेगा. लेकिन मैंने किसी मैनेजर फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग एंड एनालिसिस एक रोल है फॉर एग्जांपल, if I have given an offer to that guy, he has a notice period of 90 days. I'm 110% sure he will start looking out for other offers as well. So the organization is ready. I think the organizations are matured enough to understand that. And you cannot go back and forth. आप 60, आप 3 महीने के बाद नहीं बोल सकते कि यार sorry I cannot join. That becomes a unprofessional हो जाता है वो. You make the company wait for 3 months and then you at the a day before you're joining you say कि sorry I cannot join. That is unprofessional because you have an idea कि where you're joining. So it's always better to have a clear communication. Ki, I have an offer. If you can kind of match that offer, it will be very good because I'm really interested in joining. So you can always have that civil, professional negotiation and discussion, and nothing wrong in that. Offer revokes hote hai. Obviously, if the organization is 100% sure ki we cannot go to 15 lakhs or 16 lakhs from the budget of 10 lakhs, so they will kind of tell ki sorry sir, possible nahi hai. You can take the new offer that you can because we won't be able to match it. करके.
But in this case, even you can say, right, like if you're ready to come at 12 LPA, we are ready to take you.
Yeah,
That is fine.
definitely. It's not like कि अगर if you have come to me कि I have another offer तो I will, अरे नहीं यार ये गलत हो गया, I will revoke the offer. Well, I mean, as I told you, a mature organization won't do it because it's you have, as an organization, I have spent too much of my resources and time just to take it on the ego and tell you कि नहीं sorry I cannot take you now. You have gone to another organization for the offer. Sorry मैं नहीं ले सकता. वो आजकल के टाइम पे most of the decent organizations won't do that.
So at least as a candidate, he can take a chance of going to the HR and trying to negotiate.
या बिकॉज पीपल गेट ना ऑफर्स तो आते हैं आपको, तो यू कैन टेल कि मेरे को अभी रिसेंटली जस्ट नो आफ्टर यू गिव द ऑफर मेरे पास उसके नेक्स्ट डे ये ऑफर आया है मेरे पास विच इज अ बेटर ऑफर, सो वुड यू बी एबल टू काइंड ऑफ कंसिडर इट. तो यू कैन, जैसे मैंने बोला, यू कैन हैव दैट सिविल कॉन्वर्सेशन विद.
So you mentioned about the notice period, right? So do you consider notice period while hiring? Okay, like as you mentioned, दो opening होती है, कभी immediate requirement भी होती है, and कभी it's fine. So
Right.
is notice period an important criteria for you while hiring?
It is not the most important criteria, but it is something that we kind of look into, we kind of consider. 90-day notice hota hai, it is very difficult because again there are two things. The organization has to wait for 3 months, which is a quarter. The other is there is a higher chances of the candidate not joining after 90 days notice. There's a very good chance that he will kind of have another offer, much better offer, and won't join. So that way it is a, I won't say red flag नहीं है because कैंडिडेट के ऊपर नहीं है उसका नोटिस पीरियड, उसका ऑर्गेनाइजेशन डिसाइड करता है. तो इट्स नॉट लाइक ही हैज, उसने बोला है कि मेरे को 90 डेज का सर्व करना ही है. So in that sense it's not his point of view, but yeah, there is a, if somebody has a 30-day notice period, very good. If somebody has a 60 days notice period, ठीक है, 2 months, 3 months. So yeah, it is not like I won't shortlist a profile on the basis of notice period. That doesn't happen. I will always shortlist the profile, the candidate basis the credentials that he has, the experience जो उसका है, उसने जो इंटरव्यू में बात किया है, जो एक्सप्लेन किया है, उसी के बेसिस पे होगा. Notice period doesn't become your selection criteria in that sense, but yeah, it is something that an organization will look into ki how comfortable are we in terms of him serving 90 days or 60 days or whatever it is, and the criticality of the role that we are taking him. एक रोल बहुत ही ज्यादा क्रिटिकल है जिसमें यू कैन नॉट हैव अ वेकेंसी, कि वो पोजीशन वेकेंट रह ही नहीं सकता, आपको कोई बंदा चाहिए ही चाहिए। तो वहां पे 90 डेज का किसी का नोटिस है तो आई ऑलवेज प्रेफर अ 60 डे गाय, इवन दो द 90 डे गाय इज अ लॉट बेटर देन द 60 डे गाय, क्योंकि मुझे वो 30 डेज के लिए मैं पोजीशन वेकेंट रख ही नहीं सकता। आई वांट अ गाय टू बी देयर इन दैट रोल एवरी डे, so that way it will differ, but it won't be a like a very first thing that I notice.
Yeah, because as per my experience, whenever I get a call from the HR, right, they say, "What is your notice period?"
Hmm.
If I say 3 months, they'll say, "Okay, we'll get back to you." That's what
Hmm.
I have experienced. And
Yeah.
when I said 15 days, 30 days, they'll say, "Okay, let's start with the interview
तो
process." So that is,
उनका टैट भी मेंटेन करना होता है ना, उन खुद का रोल भी देख रहे हैं। क्या होता है कि एवरी देयर इज अ क्राइटेरिया फॉर अ टैलेंट एक्विजिशन गाय, और ये रोल है, आपका टर्न अराउंड टाइम इज 21 डेज, टर्न अराउंड टाइम
Mhm.
इज 45 डेज, सीनियर रोल के लिए 60 डेज हो सकता है। तो उसका टैट भी वहां पे हिट हो रहा है, जिसके बेसिस पे उसका सेट ऑफ KRAs है कि मुझे 21 डेज में या 40 डेज में ये पोजीशन फिल करना है। सो ही विल चेक कि सिद्धार्थ के अलावा मेरे पास कौन से ऑप्शन है जो से 60 डेज में आ सकता है, 45 डेज में आ सकता है, सो दैट आई कैन फिल इन दैट वैकेंसी ड्यूरिंग दैट जो टैट मेरा टैट है। सो या 90 डेज का वो है, आई नो 90 डेज एट
Mhm.
काफी सारे सीनियर लेवल पे या स्लाइटली हायर मिडिल लेवल पे 90 डेज का होता है। सो या दैट इज देयर, बट इट इज समथिंग नॉट इन आवर कंट्रोल ना एज अ कैंडिडेट। वो तो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन
Mhm.
ने डिसाइड किया है, हमारे एम्प्लॉयमेंट लेटर में लिखा गया है 90 डेज का, तो आई हैव टू सर्व 90 डेज, कांट हेल्प।
Yeah, because many of my students, what they do, like they have a notice period of 90 days, but when they get a call from HR, they'll say a notice period is 45 to 60 days.
Yeah,
Then
so
they go
they'll
ahead
they'll
with the
say कि
interview.
yeah, that do so they'll tell कि see officially it is 90 days जो नोटिस पीरियड इन मेंशन्ड है, बट जनरली हमारे यहाँ पे 45 डेज में रिलीविंग मिल जाता है, या तो आई कैन
हाँ.
नेगोशिएट। सो फिर एक बार ऑफर आपका आ गया, देन यू हैव स्पेंट 30 डेज इन द नोटिस, और 15 डेज निकल गया, तो देन द HR गाय विल टेल कि भाई कब ज्वाइन कर रहे हो, तो दे विल टेल कि नहीं मिल रहा है रिलीविंग, हमको नहीं छोड़ रहे उन लोग, रिलीविंग लेटर नहीं मिलेगा, टर्मिनेशन हो जाएगा। So as an HR guy, I don't have any other option, right? I've already waited for 45 days. अब मैं उसको
हम्म.
हाँ भाई तू मत आ बोल के मैं फिर से नया प्रोसेस शुरू नहीं कर सकता, which will again take me a month's time. Better I'll again wait for him to serve his notice period या whatever it is, and then he'll join. So I know that happens. Every HR guy knows that happens. So it's not something that the candidate बहुत smartly कर रहा है, वैसा नहीं है, सबको पता होता है क्या चल रहा है दोनों साइड में।
हाँ, दोनों को जरूरत है इसलिए दोनों कुछ कर नहीं
दोनों
पाए.
दोनों मार्केट रिक्वायरमेंट है, डिमांड एंड सप्लाई है, राइट? यू
हम्म.
इफ यू आर जॉइनिंग समवेयर, so the guy wants you, you also want to go there, no, right, as a part of your career
हम्म.
progression, salary अच्छी है, perks अच्छे है, organization अच्छा है, so it's a give and take thing, no?
Yeah, correct. So, suppose there's a candidate is interviewed, okay? So
Hmm.
there are two candidates who are being interviewed. So, do you select a candidate who followed up with you? Like, okay, can you tell me what is the update on the interview process? Like, do we have any timeline, or it doesn't matter whether they follow up with you or not?
See, it's मतलब उसका सिलेक्शन उसके बेसिस पे तो नहीं होगा, एटलीस्ट आई वोंट डू, एंड आई डोंट थिंक एनी HR गाय और एनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विल डू इट कि जस्ट बिकॉज ही इज फॉलोइंग अप ही इज मोर सुटेबल कैंडिडेट। बट हाँ, इट ऑलवेज हेल्प्स, इट शोज कि यू आर ईगर एटलीस्ट टू
Hmm.
join the organization, or you're eager with to kind of join this role, so that helps. But yeah, it won't change my decisions about the candidate just because he's following up, ऐसा नहीं होगा कि वो follow up कर रहा है तो I'll select him. It will always be the better fit guy, irrespective कि he is following up or not. कुछ लोगों को follow up करना, they think कि follow up करना ठीक है, which is absolutely right. Some people won't like following up, they are like, I'm done with the interview, I'll wait for the organization to kind of give me a call or give me an update. So that is always there, so it doesn't, my decision won't change basis if he's follow up. It will kind of give me a nice impression about the guy, that he's serious about the role and he will join me, like that.
Hmm. Because if you're confused between two candidates, right? So this might help you say, okay, that candidate is more interested to join, so we
Yeah,
can select him. Yeah.
या तो वो काइंड ऑफ एक एश्योरिटी रहता है कि बंदा मुझसे बात कर रहा है तो ही विल जॉइन, ही इज एटलीस्ट सीरियस। दूसरे बंदे का रहेगा तो आई माइट थिंक ओके ही माइट हैव गिवन अनदर 3-4 इंटरव्यूज, सो ही माइट looking out for another organization. So that is there, but then I can kind of give him a call, understand कि उसका perspective क्या है, give me a better clarity on that.
Mhm. So, are you hiring right now? Like, did number of jobs went down? Like, people are saying recession is happening, jobs are not there. So, have you experienced that in the recent time?
Not in our organization, not in our field, so I cannot kind of give you a fair idea about the IT field or something like that. But in our I don't think even IT has happened there. I see a lot of my friends getting new offers. Indian market I don't think has been affected as much as you see about Canada or European market or something like that. I don't think Indian market has been affected in any way. In that sense, I see the similar kind of job offers coming in. इंडस्ट्री वाइज शायद थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर नीचे हो सकता है, but general feeling that I have as somebody who does recruitment, who take people, who talk to them, I think there are enough and more jobs available in the market for people to kind of look out for new opportunities.
Correct. Yeah.
And I
And
think, I frankly think it will only kind of go up or be similar. The kind of economic trajectory that we have, unless ki something dramatic happens, like what happened during COVID. Even during COVID, I think a lot of guys actually enjoyed a nice career progression, frankly. But unless something that happens, जैसा चल रहा है वैसा अगर economic growth वगैरह चला, so I think India as a job market is fairly stable in that sense. We'll have a fairly stable market for at least for the next 15-20 years.
yeah, because in IT after COVID, right, the jobs went up and even the
Yeah.
hikes, right, people were getting crazy hikes. So that might be one of the reason
200%,
for IT.
300%, 350%. I've seen people
Yeah.
going up from 5 lakhs to 19 lakhs, 20 lakhs within a space of 8 months, 9 months. So yeah, that has happened, but that is like that is not something normal. That like once in a year वाला चीज है, वैसा हमेशा नहीं
Ah,
होगा. But yeah, that
correct.
has happened. But I think job market अपने यहाँ पे is fairly good. I don't think any issue.
Okay. Yeah. So, one question related to moonlighting. Like, if a candidate does YouTube or teaching something as a part time, which is not affecting company's work, so
Hmm.
are you allowed to hire such candidate?
So it depends ki first of all if the candidate is transparent in the sense ki he tells ki during the initial stages ki I have, for example, I have a YouTube channel or I have a writing assignment wherein I do this. It is not related to the work I do. It is something that, say for example, content writing मैं करता हूँ, मैं HR का बंदा हूँ लेकिन I do content writing. I write stories, I write assignments, poems for that. So I'm doing that, which is giving me an income. So which is giving me an income, that I think is okay. And also depends कि organization knows about it. अगर organization को पता रहता है कि वो ऐसा कर रहे हैं, and if they are okay with it, तो okay with it. If there is something that is very much related to the work that you do,
Hmm.
and you are getting income out of it, then I would say it depends on the organization to organization. If they are comfortable with the candidate doing it, a lot of the organizations are not comfortable कि आप जो कर रहे हो आप उसी को एज अ सेपरेट सोर्स ऑफ इनकम अलग से नहीं कर सकते. इट माइट हैम्पर आर से कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी डेटा जो हमारे पास है. Might specially happen in the technical space, the IT space. So a lot of the organizations are not very comfortable with it. It would depend, yeah, it would depend organization to organization how they look into it. Yeah, it depends. I know it
Yeah.
always also depends if the organization knows about it. If they, because a lot of the time they won't know about it, know what you're doing in your during your Saturday or Sunday, आप क्या कर रहे हो, या तो छुट्टी के टाइम पे पोस्ट ऑफिस आवर्स आप क्या कर रहे हो नहीं पता होता है. So if they find it out and they are okay with it, then it's okay. If it's not hampering your work and the data and everything, it depends. It purely depends on organization to organization.
And in this case, also, if the company finds out, they might tell you, right? Okay, close the YouTube channel or close the work which you are doing, and you
Yeah,
can do
yeah.
that. And yeah.
Yeah, the company will always give you kind of a, you will have that initial talk na ki yes, I don't think this is not fitting in the company policy, the company doesn't like it, so you can just stop it. They won't do it like कि उनको पता चला and the next day you're out of the system. That's not going to happen. So yeah, it depends, yeah, organization to organization. This is a more of a recent phenomenon. No? Last 1.5 year you've started hearing about it. It is not something, I don't think a lot of the organization have it as a clause in their appointment or offer letter. Now they have started kind of putting it. a lot of the IT companies have started putting in it as a part of their clause that you're not allowed to do it or something like that. So it's fairly a recent phenomena. So it will take some time for both the parties, the employee and the employer, to kind of find a middle ground key, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. So in India it's fairly new, I think, at least in the public domain में तो new है, पहले लोग करते होंगे पता नहीं होगा, but it is fairly new, so it will take some time to find a common ground.
Correct. Because even I have seen in the offer letter, people like company mentions like, okay, you can do something which is not related to the work which you are
Right.
doing, and you can do that. Yeah.
Right. So that I don't think, जैसे मैंने बोला, I'm an HR guy, I'm writing poems or stories, कोई भी correlation नहीं है. So that I don't think any organization should have a problem with it, as far as it doesn't, convey with your data privacy, your assignment privacies, what you're doing is out in the public domain. So that I think is fine if you're doing something not related to your job.
Yeah. So, just final advice for people who are watching this podcast, like what they can do differently to get shortlisted or anything from your side.
Shortlisted, yeah, see, it's a very, how do I put it, getting shortlisted, there's no like set pattern keys, iske basis pe you will be getting shortlisted, but there are certain things that we can do from our end. जैसे मैंने बोला कि, so our representation, as a candidate, मेरा representation is the CV that I have, biodata, CV, whatever you want to call it. So the best thing that you can do is make that foolproof. तो उसके लिए जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि you can have it precise, mention numbers that you also suggested, mention numbers, mention about the assignments or the inputs that you have done as the organization, spell check clear रखना, grammatical mistakes ना हो. Keywords is something that we look at. Keywords लोग अभी तो generally everybody is aware of that, so they mention it, which is very good actually. So if you are going for a role in a B2B business, business to business जो role है, so mention that you have handled B2B business, mention those keywords, specifically mention करना keywords को. अगर कोई specific आप जो role देख रहे हो वहाँ पे कुछ एक KRA set of KRAs है which you think will help you kind of get the role, highlight those KRAs in the CV. When you write the CV, highlight those sections, because when I'm reading it as a recruiter, I'll see कि okay, talent acquisition, he has handled talent acquisition. Highlight business, HR business partner highlight किया है, HR business partner I can understand. uh, Performance evaluation, performance management he has handled, that has been highlighted. So I know कि मैं श्रेयस जिस रोल के लिए ले रहा हूँ उसमें ये set of KRAs है, he has handled all those set of KRAs. I can just skim through your CV, I can get an idea कि these are the things I have done. So yeah, those are some of formatting. Keep the formatting clear in terms of spacing, line. The CV should look neat. It should look neat and clean. I should not find it कि यार पढ़ने के लिए मुझे तकलीफ हो रही है, वैसा नहीं होना चाहिए. It should be decent in that sense. A lot of the organization prefers PDF format. So जब आप upload कर रहे हो, you can upload a PDF format. It becomes easier for the guy to kind of just skim through it. उसका it gives a nice presentation in the PDF format a lot of the time. So yeah, that those are some of the things. And try to keep your CV updated in the, if you are uploading it in the portals, make sure कि every 2 days you kind of upload the CV, so that when a recruiter sees कि ठीक है, these guys are looking out for a role, मैं देख रहा हूँ कि सिद्धार्थ was active a day back, so he's somebody who is genuinely looking out for changes basically. So keep updating your profiles every other day, if not every day, at least every alternate day आप update करते रहोगे, तो it will show कि सिद्धार्थ has been active very frequently. So somebody who is very keen to change, so I can reach out to him. So these are some of the things you do. Interviews के time पे always have a professional setup. Don't walk around with your camera. कैमरा लेके आप यहाँ जा रहे हो, आप वहाँ जा रहे हो, बात कर रहे हो, बहुत डिस्टर्बेंस है, ट्रैफिक है. सेल्स जो फील्ड में होते हैं बंदे, उनके साथ बहुत बार होता है, दैट इज अंडरस्टैंडेबल. बट फॉर अ लॉट ऑफ अस गाइज हु आर डूइंग डेस्क जॉब्स, ऑफिस में, हम लोग फील्ड में नहीं, हम लोग ऑफिस में जॉब कर रहे हैं, ऑलवेज बेटर टू हैव अ प्रोफेशनल सेटअप. कुछ पीछे लोग आ रहे जा रहे हैं, बहुत आवाज़ आ रही है, कैमरा यहाँ शेक हो रहा है, मेरा गेटअप अच्छा नहीं है, आई एम नॉट प्रॉपरली ग्रूम्ड. वो थोड़ी छोटी मोटी चीज़ें हैं, बट इट काइंड ऑफ नो स्टेज बैक व्हेन आई एम टॉकिंग टू यू फॉर 40 मिनट्स. मैं आपको देख रहा हूँ और इतना सब कुछ चल रहा है, आपका गेटअप थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर नीचे है, तो इट काइंड ऑफ स्टेज बैक. नो, सो ऑलवेज बेटर टू कीप दोज बेसिक थिंग्स इन माइंड. And obviously the most important thing is you should know what you're talking about.
हम्म,
सीवी में ए लिखा है, you're talking about Z, doesn't matter. So it is always better कि you put, जैसे मैंने last when we started talking the start of the podcast, I told you. So I personally always tell the guys. So for example, I am selected a guy. I want him to meet the zonal head or the national sales head. I kind of give them an idea कि see these are the kind of क्वेश्चनिंग, रेंज ऑफ क्वेश्चनिंग ये होगा, आपका बिजनेस अंडरस्टैंडिंग क्या है, नंबर्स में हाउ गुड आर यू, आप फोरकास्टिंग कैसे करते हो, आप ये असाइनमेंट को कैसे अप्रोच करते हो, डिफिकल्टीज आप क्या फेस करते हो, उसको कैसे ओवरकम करते हो. तो इस सब क्वेश्चंस का एक जेनेरिक आंसर भी हो सकता है, या तो एक सिचुएशनल आंसर भी हो सकता है. अगर कोई मुझे पूछ रहा है कि एक चैलेंज को आप कैसे फेस करते हो, आई कैन टेल कि आई लुक इन टू दी चैलेंज, आई ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड दी चैलेंज, आई गिव सम टाइम, आई अंडरस्टैंड इट, देन आई फेस इट. दिस इज वन पार्ट ऑफ आंसरिंग. और आई कैन आंसर बाय गिविंग एन एग्जाम्पल कि ये चैलेंज एक्चुअली हुआ था मेरे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, दिस इज हाउ आई मैनेज्ड इट. दैट वे एज अ गाय हु इज लिसनिंग टू यू, मेरे को ऐसा लग रहा है कि ओके ही हैज फेस्ड अ रियल लाइफ चैलेंज वेर इन ही हैज गिवन नो, उसने बताया कि कैसे ही कैन हैंडल इट. सो दैट काइंड ऑफ हेल्प्स मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम. या या दिस इज व्हाट आई कैन थिंक ऑफ यार राइट नाउ. वैसे तो बहुत कुछ है, छोटी छोटी चीजें, बट या जनरली यू हैव टू बी काइंड ऑफ ट्रूथफुल रहोगे, तो इट कम्स अक्रॉस. इफ यू आर मेकिंग अप आंसर्स नो ऑन द गो विच यू हैव नॉट डन, तो इट काइंड ऑफ समझ जाता है वो. नॉट
हम्म,
ओनली टू एन एचआर गाय, टू एनीबडी. अगर आप किसी से बात कर रहे हो एंड यू काइंड ऑफ लिसन कि ही इज जस्ट मेकिंग अप आंसर्स, ही डजंट नो व्हाट ही इज टॉकिंग अबाउट, सो यू कैन मेक आउट, आप पता चल जाता है सामने से. सो इट्स ऑलवेज बेटर, सो एज आई टोल्ड यू, टू जॉट डाउन सम पॉइंट्स, राइट कर लेना, मोबाइल पे लिख सकते हो, हैंड रिटन कर सकते हो कि दिस इज व्हाट. सो इट काइंड ऑफ गिव्स यू अ फॉर्मेट कि ओके दिस इज, even though you know your own career very much, but a lot of the times it's better to just kind of write it down, go through it, okay, okay, these are my points that I can talk about, this is something that I'm very confident about that I have done. So that helps a lot of the time.
yeah, because presentation is more important because you know you're going to talk the same thing, but how you talk, that's more important than what you talk.
Right. Always better to be crisp. Don't आप ऐसे लाइन लगाते हुए कुछ का कुछ कनेक्शन लगाते हुए, इट्स ऑलवेज बेटर टू आंसर इट, to always better to being confident is not something that you can, you know, it's not something that you can start preparing for. As आप interview, जरूरी नहीं है somebody gives an interview, somebody will crack an interview in the first attempt, somebody will take at least 7 8 interviews to get through, so it is absolutely fine. Just the thing is start refining yourself in terms of how you speak, how confident you are, आपका body language कैसा. A lot of the interviews happen in the videos like what we are doing podcast. आपका virtual बहुत ज़्यादा होता है आजकल. Not everybody directly comes to meet face to face as the first round of interviews. So in that way आपका वो सब सराउंडिंग जो है, आपका जो बेसिक प्रेजेंटेशन है, अभी मेरा सिर्फ यहाँ तक दिख रहा है, मेरा मेरा टी शर्ट का, आई कैन सी द फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ माई टी शर्ट. तो इट्स इम्पोर्टेंट कि यू कैन नो बी प्रेजेंटेबल इन दैट सेंस, how you are appearing virtually, because a lot of the things happen virtually now, interviews happen virtually. So these small things that kind of makes a difference overall. Obviously the candidature and the credentials experience जो है, that is the foremost important thing. But उसके अलावा ये छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं that kind of pushes your candidature basically.
करेक्ट करेक्ट, नहीं तो हम लोग वीडियो कर रहे हैं, पीछे से कोई बच्चा भाग रहा है, इधर से आवाज आ रहा है,
हाँ,
ऐसा
वो
बहुत
उधर से
होता है.
आवाज आ रहा है, कोई कुकर की सीटी बज रही है, कोई चिल्ला रहा है, तो वो सब होगा तो थोड़ा सा ऑड लगता है वो इंटरव्यूज के टाइम पे, बिकॉज इट्स अ प्रोफेशनल थिंग नो, यू आर डूइंग, यू आर काइंड ऑफ गिविंग योर सेल्फ अप फॉर कि आई एम गुड फॉर दिस रोल. So it becomes a bit of a issue when that happens.
Yeah, correct. So thank you श्रेयस फॉर योर टाइम. लाइक बहुत अच्छा था पॉडकास्ट, बहुत सारा इंसाइट्स मिला कि एचआर कैसे सोचता है, क्योंकि हम लोग दूसरे साइड खड़े हैं, हम लोग जॉब ढूंढ रहे हैं और
Right.
आप जॉब दे रहे हो, ऐसा होता है. तो दिस वाज अ
Right.
वेरी गुड पॉडकास्ट, बहुत इंसाइट्स मिले. होप इससे लोगों को भी हेल्पफुल हो कि उनको क्या करना चाहिए, क्या करेंगे तो
Sure.
बेटर जॉब मिलेगा.
Sure. Thanks, यार. I hope it helps. मतलब I tried to kind of be as frank as possible in terms of what happens with the HR profession. It is not only the games and things that we do for an organization की गेमिंग हो गया, ये हो गया, एचआर वैसा नहीं है, बहुत कुछ होता है. it's a, it's a it's a kind of a, I would say it's not related to the thing, but it's kind of a, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, thankless job है, kind of a thing. Because see, what happens with an HR is you have to look at both the perspectives. For an organization, for the management, you are somebody there, you are their representative going to the employee. For an employee, you are their representative who has to speak up to the management. So it's a fine line to kind of match between both the ways. Not everything is in their hand. You have also have to remember not everything is their hand. Me as I am a foot soldier, right? I'm not a vice president for HR. I'm not a managing director of the organization. So there are certain things that are not in my control. That has to be coming from the top management. I have to take approval. I have to justify why this is happening. Why I have to give 50K more. आप बोलने के लिए 50,000 क्या क्या फर्क पड़ता है. बट इट इज नॉट इन माई हैंड. नो, आई कैनॉट जस्ट जनरेट एन ऑफर लेटर एंड मैं भेज दूंगा सिद्धार्थ को कि भाई आ जा, तू 60,000 ज्यादा ले ले, आ जा तू. So that doesn't happen. So it's always a fine line to maintain. So there's a lot of things that happens in the background that not many people are aware of, with the HRs and the thing. So yeah, but it was a nice talking to you. I did not actually imagine that I'll be talking so much, and I just now saw the timing. It's been more than an hour, so it's been a very good session. It's been a very good session. In fact, yeah, अभी मुझे पता चल रहा है कि how much I kind of talked about the HR profession. I did not know कि HR के बारे में इतना बात कर सकते हैं. So it was a good. I hope people who listen to it kind of have a fair idea, because see, talking about it and happening in real life is two very different things. But even if you can take something out of it, a small thing that will help you to better your career, I think we would have done our job. Yeah, that's great talk,
Yeah.
great talking to Siddharth.
Yeah, even HR and employer, right? If they both understand each other, I think both of their jobs will be like, yeah, दोनों का काम आसान हो जाएगा basically.
हो जाएगा, but I see, I when employees of the organization, they kind of blame, or they kind of they tell कि it's not happening what we expected. You kind of understand their point of view, right? मतलब I personally understand their point of view. There's, I'd never say कि what they are doing is wrong. I think it's to each our own end. Everybody's there to do their kind of work. They'll do it. They have a certain expectation. When you spend 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours in the office slogging it out, you have certain expectations from the organizations, and if that expectations are not met, it's a very basic human nature to be agitated, to be angry. Ki, why is it not happening when I am giving my 100% to the organization? So it's absolutely right from that perspective. I think when employees are not kind of, they tell ki, why is it not happening? But again, there are certain things that happens in the background that all the employees are not aware of. Not everything is as easy as writing okay approved in the mail and sending it to it. A lot of the things happens in the background with terms of senior management, the kind of restrictions they have in terms of managing their profit and loss statement, managing the business requirement. There is a certain top line that they have to deliver, profitability that they have to deliver. So it's both ways here. It's both ways. So yeah, if both understand it, then it's good. But we don't live in an ideal world, so that is fine.
Yeah, क्योंकि एचआर के बारे में बहुत मजाक उड़ता है, लेकिन एचआर का दर्द उसको ही पता होगा जो एचआर में काम कर रहा है.
हाँ, वो अभी दर्द लगता नहीं. I think in the initial stages you feel it. After 8 years, 9 years in the job, I think it's okay. I'm doing my work, you're doing your work. I don't feel it that way right now. Like कोई कुछ है jokes है तो I always give a thumbs up कि okay, thank you. So that's how it
Yeah,
is. After a point of time, you could become zen. You listen to it so
correct.
much that it doesn't bother after a point of time.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Shreyas. Hope इससे
Yes,
लोगों को
thanks, Siddharth.
मदद मिले. Yeah, thank you
Sure,
so much.
sure. Thanks a
Bye.
lot. Yeah, thanks a lot.